All right, so here we're looking at changing the subject of an equation, and a couple of preliminary things. The subject of an equation is the part of the equation that's by itself. So if I tell you that x is 3a minus 2b, x is the subject of the equation. And we can rearrange this equation to make either a by itself or b by itself. The next thing is that the method we're going to use is the same method as when you're solving an equation, where you do things like plussing 4 to both sides or dividing both sides by 2, things like that. That's how we're going to change the subject of an equation. Let's start simple and then we'll work up to the harder stuff. So I'm going to tell you that a is 3b. And at the moment, a is the subject, and I want to change it to make b the subject. Well, to get b by itself, I'm going to have to get rid of that 3b, which is 3 times b. And to get rid of a times by 3, we divide by 3, just like if we're solving an equation. And if I divide the right by 3, I've got to divide the left by 3. The right-hand side turns into, well, 3b divided by 3 is just b, which is what we wanted. And the a divided by 3, we just write as a divided by 3. So that's how it's different from solving equations. You're not left with a nice satisfying number. We didn't do 18 divided by 3 to get 6. We did a divided by 3 to get a divided by 3. So it's a little unsatisfying in that way, I suppose. What other rules are there? Well, if we add a little more to that, if we say we've got a equals 3b take away 5, well, this time there's a couple of different things to move around to get b by itself, but I'm going to start by plussing on 5. The reason I'm starting by plussing on 5 instead of dividing by 3 is because if I divide by 3, I'd have to divide a by 3 and 3b by 3 and divide the minus 5 by 3, and it just gets messy. So it's nicer to sort out the plussing and minusing first where we can. Right, so we've plus 5, and on the right-hand side, that just leaves us with 3b. That was why we did it. But on the left, what's a plus 5? It's just a plus 5. So the only other thing to do to the b is to divide by 3. And on the right-hand side, we're left with b, which is the point. That's why we did it. A plus 5 divided by 3 is just a plus 5 divided by 3. And that's all. We leave it at that. One other little thing is sometimes you've got a divide that you have to cancel out as well. So if I tell you that a is b plus 2 divided by 5, this time the first thing we're going to need to do is multiply by 5 to cancel out the divide by 5. We do that because it's like we can't get to the 2 yet. We can't subtract 2 yet because it's being divided by 5. So if I cancel out the divided by 5, then I can work with it. A times 5 is just 5a. And after we've multiplied by 5, the other side turns into b plus 2. So we can then subtract 2 to get 5a minus 2 equals b. So now b is the subject of that equation. Right, there's a couple more examples I'd like to show where we're putting it all together now. We've done lots of a's and b's, but of course, like with all algebra, it can be any letter really. So we're next going to do x equals 3y plus 2 divided by 4. And I want to make y the subject. First thing I'm going to have to do is multiply by 4 to get that divide by 4 out from the bottom, leaving me with 4x on the left and 3y plus 2 on the right. Next, I can subtract 2 from both sides to get 4x minus 2 equals just 3y. The minus 2 cancels out the plus 2. And finally, if I divide by 3, I get y by itself, so y is the subject, and 4x minus 2 divided by 3 on the other side. One final example, and then I'll put some questions up which you can have a go at if you want. T equals 4p minus 8 divided by r. So there are 3 letters involved there. There's a T and a P and an R, but in this example it's going to be P that I'm trying to get by itself. Just neaten that up a little bit. P. So I want to make P the subject. First thing I'm going to do is get rid of that denominator. Now, every other time we got rid of the denominator, we were multiplying by a number, but this time we're multiplying by a letter. We're going to multiply both sides by r. On the left side, that gives me tr, which is equal to the denominator. We cancelled it out, so 4p minus 8. And now it looks quite a lot like the others. We'll plus 8 to both sides to get tr plus 8 on this side and 4p on the other side. And lastly, we'll divide by 4 to get tr plus 8 divided by 4 equals p. Right, so it's kind of like an extension of solving equations, but this time you don't really get to do, like I said earlier, 18 divided by 6 equals 3. In this case, if we did a divided by 6, we would just get a divided by 6. So there's 3 questions there, which if you would like, you can pause the video and have a go at, or you can just leave it playing as I talk through the answers. So pause here if you want to, and I'm going to talk through. This first one's the more straightforward type because we don't have to do much dividing or anything at the beginning. We're going to take away 3 to give us a minus 3 on the left equals just 2b. And to get b by itself, I don't want to divide by b. I want to divide by 2 because we've got 2b. I don't want 2b, I just want 1b. So we've got to divide both sides by 2, leaving me with a minus 3 over 2 divided by 2. And 2b divided by 2 is just b. So now b is the subject. For the second one over here, there's a couple of different ways we could do it. I'm going to expand the bracket first because that is what we would do if we were solving an equation. So it's probably best to keep sort of one rule. So if we expand this bracket, we get 3b plus 15, and that's what a is equal to. Now to get b by itself, I'm going to take away that 15 first, leaving me with a minus 15 equals 3b, and then the only other thing is to divide by, not by 15, what's going on? I've got 3b, I don't want 3b, I want 1b, so I've got to divide by 3. On the left, that's a, take away 15 over 3. On the other side, we just left with b. And our final example, the first thing to notice is we've got to divide by 6. We have a divide by 6, which we cancel by multiplying by 6. On the left, I've now got 6a, and on the right, I've got 4b minus 2. I'm going to plus 2 to get rid of that minus 2, leaving me with 6a plus 2 equals just 4b is left. Finally, still got the space, I'm going to divide by 4, so I don't have 4b anymore, I've just got b, which leaves me with b on the other side. And on this side we have 6a plus 2 divided by 4. Well, it's a bit of a squeeze, but there. I'll just rewrite it up here. b equals 6a plus 2 divided by 4. So that's changing the subject. In essence, all the working out we did, where we do the same thing to both sides, is the same thing we'd do if we were solving an equation, except this time, when we do a plus 2, we just get a plus 2. And you just have to be careful of making sure you're never actually trying to do a divide or a times, because that will probably trip you up later down the line. So that's changing the subject of an equation. I hope that helped.